212 class. My name is Ruth Rosales, and today I will be talking to you about obesity, and mostly, predominantly among teens, and it's how it's slowly killing us. So, I'll begin. It is a known fact that obesity has been a growing epidemic in this country. This day and age we live where everything is fast and now, and it is given to us in an instant. And one of the drawbacks to living in a first world country is that we have access to food, all kinds of food, and it's particularly greasy food that we have access to. It's greasy processed food that affects our body in negative ways. While we are constantly being bombarded by fitness ads about ways to lose weight fast, about as fast as we put it on pretty much, I feel like we could nip the problem as fast as possible and through our youth. I believe that our youth are negatively being affected. They are the future citizens of our country, of America. And we're starting to get these problems such as having fatter youth who can't even join the army because they're so big. And I believe that our youth are being negatively affected by the proximity of fast food vendors or merchants near schools. I believe that there should be a change. In fact, according to numerous studies, they have shown that the actual fast food restaurants located near schools have had negative effects on the health of the students and their weight and their eating habits. Thus, fast food restaurants need to be restricted from being within a certain area of a city. And to begin with, while it may not be news to many of us, American youth today have developed bad health and lifestyle habits. The U.S. Surgeon General in 1997 made a statement that only about 1/2 of U.S. children get regular exercise and 1/4 don't take part in physical activity at all. School officials often scale back or eliminate physical education programs when budget squeezes occur. Now, more than a decade later, we find ourselves in the same predicament. And the severity of these issues has permeated even our popular culture with feature films such as Super Size Me and Food Inc., which discuss topics of obesity and mass-produced unhealthy foods and the companies behind them. Obvious changes in our society need to be made. In fact, it's permeated our pop culture so much that we've come up with jokes about being fat, and we in a way make it okay to express our unhealthy eating habits. I mean, we come up with rude names in schools such as Flabby Gabby or Large Marge, and we're often set with just pop culture images of people just engorging themselves in unhealthy food. And we laugh and we think it's okay, but seriously, it's a definite social issue that needs to be addressed. In fact, so obvious changes in our society need to be made, and raising the overall level of American youth fitness would help us out a lot more, because, I mean, as adults, we have a lot more discipline in what we can do, but when we start at the youth, when we start at the young and start to train the young to eat healthy for a better future, that's where it makes more of a difference. And raising the overall level of American youth fitness will be a long, difficult undertaking that significant gains are by no means assured. And that was said by Warsnap, who was a researcher for youth fitness and for a study that he conducted. Hence, one can look at these fast food businesses and their locations as one of the main sources of the problem. Limiting fast food restaurants' locations would help in reducing our youth's declining health. Just think about how fast food places, how we recognize these fast food places, and how they are so abundant that they are pretty much on every street corner of every urban city, or just city. Their abundance and proximity often leads people to opting to eat out rather than eat a healthy meal indoors. And more specifically, it's easier for youth to eat out, say at a McDonald's or a Jack in the Box, on their way home, instead of waiting to get home to eat a home-cooked meal. And this occurs before and after school. Children and teens are just constantly tempted by the various unhealthy choices of fattening and sugary treats located at nearby convenience stores. Thus, kids are at risk for developing unhealthy eating habits. They are too immature to see the wrongs that they will do to their bodies in the future. They cannot see what negative effects will happen to them. They are developing unhealthy eating habits. And while kids are away, parents have less control of what goes on into the mouths of their children and what choices in food they are given. And according to an article written for Average Readers by Prevention Magazine, those kids who ate chicken nuggets, onion rings, or french fries at fast food restaurants 1 to 3 times a week took in nearly 200 more calories per day than those who never eat away from home. And it's common knowledge that about the average caloric intake is about 2,000 to 2,500, depending on your size and height and everything. And I mean, if you're eating at least onion rings or fries every day, you understand that it's almost like another day's complete meal if you're eating every day out. It would lead to about an extra 1,400 calories a week. And so California schools have even opted a few years ago to get rid of the fast food available on their school menu. But this action only goes so far. If we as adults sometimes find it difficult to abstain from eating at fast food, what do you think it's like for youth? What the struggle is like for a young person to walk past the McDonald's or that Jack in the Box. And moreover, while schools in California, specifically in California, may be feeding their teens healthier picks, there is less control on what students consume when they leave campus, and research shows the proximity of restaurants correlates to the health of our youth. On a local level, research has been conducted studying fast food retailers located near schools and the effects their locations have on childhood and teen obesity. According to researchers David and Carpenter in their 2009 article written for the American Journal of Public Health, students in California were heavier and more likely to be overweight or obese if their school was located within 1/2 of a mile of a fast food restaurant. Patterns are consistent with the idea that fast food near schools affect students' eating habits, overweight, and obesity. And so teens are just too immature to choose between foods. They cannot properly determine what health risks will make themselves apparent to them and their bodies in the future. And of course, those two are not alone in this area of research. Researchers Howard Fitzpatrick and Phil Frost published a 2009 study on BMC Public Health titled Proximity of Food Retailers to Schools and Rates of Overweight 9th Grade Students, an ecological study in California, and concluded that the proximity of nearby convenience stores was associated with higher rates of overweight students. So, if fast food restaurants are placed farther away from areas where high concentrations of youth gather, we might be able to control their eating habits more often. I don't think a teen is going to necessarily willfully walk 3 miles to go get a little box of fries. It would be a fallacy in itself, though, to ignore opposing views on the declining health of our youth and just blaming it on fast food vendors. Of course, lots of things go into play. I mean, as stated before, there has been budget cuts, and then when the budget cuts hit, it's, arts and obviously it's fitness programs that get hurt a lot. There needs to be, some sort of a change in our school system. And even though, being a California student, even though that California state educational food regulations have changed and they are not allowed to sell, fries or certain other foods. Fries are the only ones I remember. They're still within the guidelines. These schools are still feeding kids hot Cheetos and Ruffles, even though they're baked. I guess they're technically healthier, but they're still unhealthy. I mean, on the list, I personally work at a high school, and on the list, we can order, Corn Nuts, Pop-Tarts, Rice Krispies, all kinds of chips, Sun Chips, and they are considered a healthy snack. And high schoolers are even still fed these gross-looking old burritos I don't know that it's even healthy to feed children that much grease. So, I mean, it's not necessarily just the fast food vendors located near schools. It's kind of a whole societal problem. There needs to be a total change in the way we do things, and starting with our youth and teaching them from the very young age, maybe elementary school, that you should eat this way, don't eat this, stay away from the mayo, eat more vegetables, more greens, more whole grains, and work out a little more. And maybe then we'll see a change, because I don't think necessarily that having 1 or 2 health classes in middle school and then later in high school are going to actually do a change, motivate kids to pursue a healthier lifestyle. So, of course, that argument has been made, and, other people have argued that we're just Americans and we're just heavy people and other people aren't having the same issues, but that is not true. As according to an article published by the Press in 2011, a newspaper, the Press is a newspaper in New Zealand, a new study by Canterbury University's GeoHealth Laboratory showed that fast food outlets were 5.5 times more likely to be clustered around schools than other areas, and 3 times more likely to be in poor areas than rich. So there is definitely that issue going on there, but I mean, sometimes it's difficult when you only make minimum wage and you see this muffin is being offered for 50 cents at the store, while trying to get a whole fruit or organic vegetables costs you a whole another, $5. What are you going to pick? I mean, it's obviously what's more affordable. So one needs to remember that, it's difficult sometimes, and it has to be a societal problem. And it's not just businesses that negatively affect our youth. So there needs to be some sort of a change there. In conclusion, the health of our society just keeps declining, and obesity has been a growing at an epidemic rate this day and age, and there needs to be changes. I honestly think that just limiting the places in which fast food businesses are allowed to place their venues would help out a lot. I understand that there are arguments that that won't solve the problem. It might solve the problem a little bit, as you kind of restrict children to only eating certain kinds of foods, and then maybe go on and totally reform the nutritional standards of California high schools, national high schools. So I think kids won't go the long distance to try and indulge on, a box of fries or a burger or whatever. And that is my argument.